Greetings once again from Olympia. This is your State Representative Cary-Condotta, and we are getting down to the end of the rope here for this session. Hard to believe, isn't it? It seems like it just started a few weeks ago, but this is a 60-day session, and we intend to keep it at 60 days. Now, what's happening right now? Well, the bills have changed sides. The Senate bills have migrated to the House has migrated to the Senate, and now the negotiations begin. The fact is that with the Republican-controlled Senate, most of the bills coming to the House aren't looked upon too favorably. And of course, many of the bills that came from the House are not looked upon too favorably in the Senate. So the fact is, right now, things are pretty lightweight. We're having a few hearings on a few bills, but nothing is being exact because there has to be some negotiation. And that's a good thing. To have both sides of the table usually makes for a better program and better policy. The budget has been released from the Senate side, and it's fairly unchanged. We'll see the House in the next day or two. I don't expect any radical changes in the budget, although the governor has requested some additional money for teachers' COLAs, which have been set aside now for, I think, 6 years. So that's one of the big pieces that is going to be negotiated, but the overall budget shouldn't change much. Capital budget, there's some few projects being added, but for the most part, again, no major changes. So really a pretty quiet session, mostly reflecting policy. Quite a few policy bills still floating around out there. Hard to say how many will make it out. I happen to have one that I'm pretty happy with. Not everybody is. It makes it easier to pay property taxes and reduces penalties when you can't afford to make those property tax payments. The fact is, property taxes are outrageously high in the state of Washington, particularly in our district, because we have a very small tax base, so everybody has to pay more. If you get behind or you get in a situation where you can't make that 6-month cutoff, generally you get slapped pretty hard. This bill would definitely make it easier to make partial payments and reduce some of the penalties. Of course, the treasurers are fighting back because the fact is the counties are telling us they're financing their budgets on these penalties and interest. Now that just doesn't seem right to me. I understand a certain amount of interest and a certain amount of penalties, but some of these can go very, very high and get people in a loop where they can't get back out or get current. This bill is very important to my constituents. However, the treasurers across the state, not necessarily ours, but across the state, are pushing hard to not have that finished. Even though it came out unanimously, they are trying to stop it in the Senate. We'll see if that makes it forward. We've also got a bill that is coming out of the Senate that I sponsored that will reduce the cost of appealing an L&I penalty. So if you get a $500 penalty from L&I for some various thing, say you're a contractor or something, in the past, it's $200. As a matter of fact, you could get a $151 fine from L&I and pay $200 to appeal it. We've reversed that down to a $100 fee. So we've reduced the amount to appeal. Several of my constituents, you folks out there, came to me and said, why would I pay $200 to appeal a $150 fine? Well, it looks like that'll be rectified as long as the governor will sign it. So there's some good policy things moving along. We're still working on the 502 marijuana program, trying to get local taxes, but the people in charge of the budget here at the state don't want to give up a single dime to the local governments. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It's one of the largest unfunded mandates ever put on our cities and towns. And if that local tax package isn't passed, I wouldn't blame any of our cities and towns for just filing a permanent moratorium and staying out of the business. But we'll see how that comes out. If that's the case, I think they'll be forced into looking at it again next time. It's only fair that local government should share in this new program, which promises, based on other states, to be quite popular with the revenue side, or quite good on the revenue side, and would really help some of our local governments that are currently not able to tax that product, which is flowing readily through their cities and towns, but there is no taxing structure. Those cities and towns could use that boost, and we're trying to give them a piece. Right now, the state's holding out for 100%. That's not good, but we'll keep working on it. There are so many other things going on I can't tell you all right now, but there'll be more. Now, our teletown hall meeting, by the time you see this, will have already happened. We did decide to do it by telephone rather than district because our district's now the largest district in the state of Washington. So the teletown hall, I hope that some of you got to participate in that program. It works really well. We'll do it again, but we want your input. We want to hear from you. Thanks for the emails, all the contacts, the letters. We'll try to get back to them as fast as we can. Right now, that's a little easier because we have a little time, but it's going to crunch up again as we move to the floor to pass what few Senate bills are agreed upon. And that's happening next, and we'll let you know next week what flies and what dies, and if we're going to get out of here on Sine Die, which I predict we will. Thanks again for checking it out. We'll see you next week. This is your State Representative, Cary-Condotta.